Hey everybody, welcome back to another beautiful day in real estate. It is Monday. This video will probably be coming out on a Wednesday, but we are going to go dive into some news that happened over the weekend. And honestly, we're gearing up for a fun spring already, and we haven't even started. Markets are starting to pick up a little bit again. I mean, maybe teetering off slightly because, as always, we're going to touch on interest rates right away. But interest rates went to that 6.4% on the conventional national average, and 15 years are even up in the sixes again. And the reason for that is uncertainty right now. That is no surprise. I mean, FHAs are still in the fives. ARM loans are still in the fives, and 30-year veteran VA loans are in the fives as well for right now. But I don't think that these higher interest rates are going to stay for too long. I think this is kind of I just don't think we're quite there yet. Let's just start there, okay? Right now we got to pay attention to what happened. The market's just opened here. It is 8:10 Central Time. So the one thing I wanted to pay attention to was oil prices, because right away, I feel like based off of what happened this weekend, I think these oil prices are headed down before they go back up again. And the reason I say that is because recently Trump came out with a truth, I guess is what you would call it, on Truth Social. Basically what he's saying in this is that they are calling on the NATO countries to start partnering with them to start transferring oil through the Hormuz Strait together to make it safe, secure, so they can keep things going. Because the problem with oil moving right now is that there is a kind of a artificial restraint on flow of oil, right? So the United States does produce oil, but a lot of people say, why don't we use the United States oil? Well, we produce a different kind of oil that needs to be refined in order to be used, and we don't have those facilities in the United States to do that. So you have to transfer that oil one place to then be, anyways. The point is that oil prices continue to go up, which causes inflation, which causes higher oil prices, which causes more uncertainty, which causes higher mortgage rates. Not too hard to follow. So what he's asking for these countries, and he did come out this weekend, and I think it was a tweet or an X, I don't even know what they call it anymore, but he was talking about how they need to partnership, and they're going to be releasing a partnership very soon where the NATO countries are going to be working together to start transferring oil, basically. And also oil prices could be heading down because you're seeing it kind of everywhere where there's big conversations that this war is going to be ended in the next 2 weeks. I mean, if it is, awesome. We don't need to see another 10-year war. But if not, there's still uncertainty there, because a tweet doesn't mean anything for sure, or an X doesn't mean it's going to happen, right? So now that we're kind of through that, you guys, let's dive into the Housing Act and the 21st Century Housing Act. There's a couple of programs, and I use ChatGPT to break it down because I read through these articles this morning, and I want to be able to kind of break it down at a base level. Whether you're in real estate or not, you should be able to understand this stuff because it's very important. The big problem with housing, we don't have enough of it. So these bills are aiming to remove the institutional investors from owning homes longer than 7 years. Now, the institutional investors, I mean by owning 300 property single-family homes or less, right? Or 350 or more, excuse me. But there are provisions that allows them to keep buying them. Like, this is not at the knees, no longer can they buy. It just means they have to follow a new way of buying them. And I'm going to dive into that. But first, let's go into like the overview of this bill that's being pushed. It passed through the Senate 89-9 this last weekend, and through the House, 310-9. Like, it's a huge push towards passing. Okay, there's some things that might have to go back to the House in order to kind of, just like any other bill, right? There's going to be some changes. So let's go over here real quick, a simple breakdown, and then we'll dive into a little bit more in depth on what that stuff kind of means, okay? So first off, the first one is newly built and renovated homes being sold. So investors can buy newly constructed or renovated homes converted from rentals if they plan to sell them. This means they have to sell them within 7 years. So they can still buy houses. They just can't buy houses and hold them forever, right? And the first company that came to mind when I thought of this is Blackstone. And I have it over here, but Blackstone has been kind of moving downwards since this stuff had conversations. This is just middle of February. So in the last month, you saw an 18% decline, which And look at all that volume. I mean, we go back, there's not a whole lot of volume. There's some here where we saw a tear, but this is a lot of volume. So um, it's one of those things where that company specifically buys homes and holds them. It is literally a real estate company out of New York. And we've looked at them purchasing some of our build to rent portfolios, and that leads into build to rent communities. So investors can buy new construction homes specifically built to be rentals, 100 home subdivisions built entirely for rentals. Again, they must sell them within 7 years. So we actually build to rents right now. I'm building a 64 unit development, and then I have another, I want to say 34 units in the South Bismarck. Dude, build to rents right now are becoming extremely popular because a lot of people feel like they can't buy a house, but they want something nice to live in, and they sure as shit are done living in apartments. In North Dakota, I mean, we have apartment buildings. I probably have 4 or 5, 6 of them around here, and they're full consistently. Like, I went to go look at a duplex yesterday with one of my investors. We were looking at potentially getting a side by side, decent house. The basement's not even finished, and they're paying $1,500 a month for basically a 2-bedroom. And that's, I mean, we could finish it out. We'd probably have like, I don't know, like 2,800 square feet per unit, and we could have 4 bedrooms and all that fun stuff. But that's like, and I asked him, I said, well, have you guys been having any issues finding other places? Like, if you wanted to move, like, we want to stay, we like the price, blah, blah. But like, dude, 2-bedroom apartments are running for 1,500 right now, and there's a line out the door. Like, new construction, I have some people that are buying. They were renters. Their house is set to be finished here in the end of April, and they had to put it like a 90-day or 60-day notice in. I don't even know what it is at this point, and it was gone in like a week. They're like, because they were breaking their lease. So when you break your lease, you have to put in a 60-day notice or 90-day notice or whatever it was. And then you have to let them show it so they can fill the lease. And then, you give them a date that you're going to move out and whatever. Dude, no issues. No issues. Because people need to be in houses. And right now, there is not enough houses for people. So they're renting apartments, twin homes. Right now, I have build to rents. I don't even have half of the homes completely finished yet. I think like 8 of them finished. I think 3 of them rented before they were even done. Like, people need houses more than ever right now. But anyways, so without getting too sidetracked on this kind of thing, the other thing that I'm going to focus on today is, we'll get there. We'll get there. All right. So the build to rent, this is allowed to build to rent development while preventing permanent corporate ownership. So basically creating more housing with the people who have money, but they have to sell it within 7 years. So this is kind of a new theory that I'm not fully grabbing my head around yet. I'll dive in here in a sec. Renovate to rent program. So investors can buy distressed properties and fix them up to rent if they repair the homes that don't meet building codes, and they have to spend more than 15% of the purchase price on renovations. Again, they must sell within 7 years. This is just saying that they're going to try and help remove the neglected housing. So like in North Dakota and Bismarck here, you have, and I know people don't know this, but I'll try to reference it. So basically you have from one street to another street to another street. Like, you have a box middle of town where those homes are built all the way from 1910 to 1980, and they are in serious need of loving. And an investor could potentially, and I mean, I know a couple flippers in that neighborhood, they're buying those properties for not a lot of money because people have been in them forever. Maybe they just couldn't maintain them. They didn't have the money to maintain them. They're paid off. They're just staying in there, basically winding down the clock. And they bought them for a good price. I mean, there's a lot of things, whether it's heaving basements or, some of them have stucco siding that needed to be completely stripped. Windows are falling off. Paint needs to be done. Shingles need to be done. The interiors are old as shit. I mean, this program right here, this could really benefit people who are struggling to make ends meet that need to sell their house. A big investor could come in and buy cash. I know a few flippers in town that do that. I'd like to get into that myself. I'm just trying to focus on 4 projects at a time because we have enough stuff in the cooker. So anyways, home ownership financing programs. Investors can participate in programs that help people become homeowners. Rent to own, seller financing, shared equity housing. Encourage pass to ownership is the purpose of this. This is kind of a big one. So we did a rent to own in this one when I first started. My builder doesn't do it anymore because I work for the builder that did this house. But when we got into this house, we did a rent to own. For the first 2 years, we didn't have the credit. We didn't have the money to necessarily put down on it. I mean, we did. We did put money down. We didn't have the credit at the time. We didn't have the extensive credit. So we got in and we paid basically $1,800 a month. And then we financed it in 22 when interest rates were at 3.75. And now we're still right at that same cost, right? And And now that we paid off the specials balance, now we're going down $100 a month. So we're at $1,700 a month, which sucks because we're going to be building this next year, and it's basically going to cost us 4 times as much to live. But it is what it is. So, anyways, these programs are that's a very big program, dude. Like, people who want to get into housing, but they don't necessarily have the capabilities yet, dude, this is perfect. I've done this before. I can attest to it. Programs that boost home ownership. These programs include the first right of refusal. Tenants get first chance to buy, 30-day first look period, and a positive credit reporting, helping renters transition into ownership. This is another one, okay? Because if you're a renter and that owner is looking to sell, it's kind of referencing back to this duplex. This duplex was perfect, big enough where it was side by side, so we could basically turn it into twin homes, and we could sell it to the tenants. We could sell it to the tenants basically, and give the first right of refusal. Sorry, my nose. First right of refusal is 30-day first look, meaning that they have the opportunity as the renter to buy the property before it hits the market. That's good. That's good stuff. Not everybody's going to jump at that opportunity, but it is one of those things, right? Debt reposition. Excuse me. Repossession. Oh my God, I can't talk today. Anyway, if some defaults on their contract, or someone defaults on their contract, the investor has the legal right to take the property back so they can repossess it. Normal lending and repossession rules will still apply. Again, this is just more security. You don't want to have a time and place where the housing, if you stop paying your bills, you just stay there for free. That would kind of defeat the purpose, right? Foreclosure transactions, again, similar concept to follow those. Buying from a lender. Okay, this is one that kind of gets me a little bit. If investor A already owns the property legally, investor B can buy it from him. This allows asset transfers between large investors. So if you are a large investor, you can buy from another large investor. This kind of defeats the purpose of the whole goddamn pill. I mean, if you have 350 properties and you're just transitioning them from company to company, you go from BlackRock to Blackstone, or you go from Morgan Stanley to Blackstone, or whatever it is, like, that kind of defeats the whole purpose, in my opinion. I don't know. That I think that might be a revision that might have to happen. A transition period for 2 years after the law starts. Investors can still buy homes from small investors. So there's 2 years giving the market to adjust. Like, it's yes, but 2 years after law starts can still buy homes from small investors. Again, you give them 2 years to buy up all these homes, and then you can transfer them from large investor to large investor. I mean, how much are we really protecting the buyer, right? And then senior housing, if investors can build or renovate homes 55 plus communities, but if those homes stop qualifying as senior housing, they must be sold within 7 years, excuse me. So again, good things, but those last couple, I'm not really on board with yet. And I might have to grab a little bit behind that. We'll see. I'll have to do some more research on it. But anyway, so the next article kind of explains what we just talked about in a more in-depth conversation. We're going to jump into the Washington Post argument or conversation that is Senate. Good Lord. Senate passes Elizabeth Warren's housing policy with some unlikely conservative allies. So again, it's one of those things where you guys just stop looking at left or right. Start looking at what's good for the people. Who gives a rat's ass what side they're on? We need to help people. That's what we need. And this is one of the few times you're going to see that. You're going to see that coming together, which is good. But the Senate passes on bipartisan basis a bill barring Wall Street investors from buying single-family homes, sending legislation back to the House. So basically, where it faces uphill battle before reaching President Trump's desk. Now, there's a couple of things we have to focus on too. Trump said that he's not signing another bill until the Safe Housing Act gets enacted or brought to his desk, which may or may not happen. So even if this does make it through the House, back to the House, and it gets passed in the House again with the revisions, we might not see it signed into law. I don't necessarily think he'll keep that hostage yet, or I don't know. But it's something to pay attention to. But the 89-10 vote adopted provisions from 21st Century Road to Housing Act were tucked into already passed House measure, meaning it will be returned to the lower chamber for final approval. So the 21st Century Act is its own bill, and the Road to Housing Act is its own bill, and they merge them together is essentially what happened. All right. The new bill will reduce regulations. And this is why I'm kind of excited for a builder's perspective, but reduce regulations related to environmental reviews as well as construction, and create new block grant programs for building units as affordable housing. Now, the next article will talk a little bit more about what that means, but designed to drive down housing costs as part of a broader affordability agenda. So, so-called institutional investors such as Blackstone, again, first one to think of, they're like the biggest one in the United States that buys single-family homes. Well, I just literally just says that. Anyways, package co-authored by Senate Banking, Housing and Urban Affairs Chairman Tim Scott. He's a Republican, so you have Democrats and Republicans because they're focusing on something that matters a little bit more than arguing on a screen, which I think is good. The bill is about increasing supply, and anybody who wants to try to block the bill, then it goes into the whole argument, whatever, right? But right now, the average home buyer is 40 years old. 40 years old. That's the first time home buyers' average age. Dude, that's terrible. We bought our house at 22. Yeah, I'm working my ass off. I came into the industry thinking I am going to be working with big time buyers. I'm going to be working with $1 million buyers. I'm going to be working with 500, dude, I work a lot with first time home buyers because they don't know what's going on. They want to buy a house and then they go and they walk through it and they're like, oh, $350,000. Cool. Why is it $2,600 a month for the monthly payment? That's not including your electricity. That's not including your water. That's not including your sewer. That's not including your garbage. That's not including maintenance on the property. That's not including anything. Like you're $3,000 deep before you even get into living in the house, right? We're not even factoring in. Okay, maybe there's housing, there's the mortgage insurance, but dude, $3,000 just to get into a house. A lot of people don't want that. That's why these apartments are stacked to the brim right now. And there's a wait list because people don't want to spend more than $1,500 to live in a house anymore. And granted, some people, it is what it is. But I mean, dude, I focus a lot on how can I make it work because people need to get into houses, man. That is where wealth is built. And like I talked to some clients the other day, we're looking at building a house, young couple, 20s, right? They already know where we're at. We found a house. We're working through payments right now. And, she says, man, I really wanted this and I really wanted that. And I said, well, you guys think of it this way. Like, this isn't your forever home, right? Like, we're gathering as much as we can to fit the criteria for the budget we have now. This isn't your forever home. This is just a home that's a stepping stone to the next place. Dude, I was in my house for 4 or 5. Sorry, we're in the house, 6 years now? We're moving on our 6th year. And we're going to be moving out soon. We're going to get into our new place. We're going to build something new and we're going to take the equity with us, right? So housing is not meant to be in your forever home forever. I mean, right away. That I think that ship has officially sailed. Maybe not, but that was how the 70s were. You get into a house, you stay there for 30 years, you're happy, you're healthy, you're moving forward. Yeah, all that stuff. I think we're kind of past that. But that was my encouragement. Like, guys, this isn't forever. We're getting you 8 out of the 10 boxes. Let's check those boxes. Let's get you moving. And then in 3 or 4 years, call me. Let's sell this damn thing. Let's make some money on it, right? I guess 5 years is typically the number I give people. But anyway, so we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into this bill because again, we've talked a little bit about it, but I kind of want to touch on the end here. So this article goes a little bit more in depth on what this bill actually means, right? So first off, again, we talked about it being passed at 89-10, and then in the in the House of Representatives passed its own version of the bill, 390-9 in past February. Multiple industry groups were in favor of the passage. So this is one of those things where, again, my optimism is getting jacked because we're moving into 2026. We're not even in the spring market yet, and we're seeing bills like this that are going to be pushing homeownership. Realtors, get your socks pulled up. Builders, get fucking ready. We're going to kick ass this year. I have already stacked my calendar with people that are iffy, but they're ready. They're just ready. They're ready. The interest rates are coming down. They're going up a little bit recently, but we're starting to see more inventory. We're starting to see more affordability measures. I still think we might see that 50-year mortgage pop up. I just do. I still think we're going to see, when we see the new Fed jump in May, that could be a big position changer. I still think that these housing acts are going to be a big portion. So anyhow, let's go into it again. I'm just jacked up now that I'm reading this today. I'm ready for it. We're here to have fun. So other provisions in this new bill include section 202, 205, and 208, respectively known as the Increasing Housing Affordability or Opportunity Zones, Build Now Act, and the Unlocking Housing Supply. So these are a little bit more in depth on these are a little bit more in depth. So, okay, this is the provisions in the bill. Okay. So each tackles different hurdles of construction. Again, as a builder, I see the motherfucking hurdles, all right? And the one thing that I think is super exciting is that they're prioritizing grants for builders on a federal and local level. So builders can start building more houses, okay? Just wait, there's more to it than this. Okay, I'm getting psyched now. I'm seeing the change coming. All right. Anyways, all right. Let's see. Okay. So allows the HUD secretary to prioritize grant funding for housing projects, as I just said, in opportunity zones, while the Build Now Act introduces pilot program for development and community development block grant areas. Lastly, Section 208 streamlines National Environment Policy Act reviews for small and infill housing projects. So they're removing barriers, and this is a double-edged sword, so bear with me, but they're removing barriers that are talking about environmental issues. So North Dakota, I don't see this as much. California is a big one. California's huge with this one. They are all about environmental, which I understand, but it restricts it restricts the shit out of builders out there. It really does. Anyways, additionally, 502 reforms and reauthorizes the Home Investment Partnerships Program to making updates and aim to improving program administration and facilitating the construction of more affordable housing nationwide. Again, we're focusing on the nationwide housing affordability concept. Again, that's going to be your headline for the next 6 months, all the way through midterms. So get ready. The next one that I'm actually kind of jazzed about. So I work again with a builder, and this, before I'll come back on the screen. But Title III of the package includes provisions to expand manufactured housing, including removing the permanent chassis requirement for manufactured homes and reauthorizing preservation reinvestment for the community. We won't get too far into that. You guys, that is big stuff, actually, because I can build manufactured homes on a permanent foundation. I'm not saying, but I can do that for $350,000. I can put somebody in a house that's 2,800 square feet for $350,000, for $325,000. And not only that, I can put you on an acre of land. Dude, manufactured homes, the difference between them and a stick build is one's built in a factory, one's not. If you're buying the right manufactured home, they get a lot of bad stigma because you have modular homes, you have mobile homes, right? Manufactured homes are actual homes that are built in a place and transferred and set on a foundation. Dude, I can show you the product that I use right now that I'm working with, and we have a license to sell these. And then I have my company that can put the foundations in the ground, which are strong, sturdy, waterproof basements. They are precasting. And then we put you on almost an acre of land. There's some land I'm looking at now. I'm working on potentially putting something together, and we're going to turn that into an affordable housing neighborhood. You get acreage, a little land. You get a house, you get an unfinished basement, you get all of those things on a permanent foundation, and you're not paying $600,000. That's huge right now. People need that. People need that. And also the other thing is getting loans for modular homes and manufactured homes is kind of a pain in the ass. There's only a couple here locally that'll do them, and they typically will only give you a 20-year mortgage versus a 30. So by removing some of these things, might give us the ability to start seeing more housing affordability for manufactured homes and financing available. So again, we packed a lot into this video today, but I think it's important. We need to see more changes towards housing affordability. And as I said, that is going to be their priority this year. Builders and agents, you guys buck up on this information, because right here is what you're going to be using to drive your business into the 2026 market and make money. So when you're ready, make sure to follow for more. Comment what you think below. I went into a lot of information today. I talk really fast and sometimes stutter. So let me know what you think. If there was anything I didn't explain well enough and you want me to dive in again, let me know. Have a beautiful day.